we'll start in one corner of the room and work our way around. Lorian, what is this?
That is the neutrophil.
More specifically, please. Segmented neutrophil. Why? By the way, I'm not, when I ask why, I'm not challenging you guys. You may be right, so don't start to go, oh,
Multiple lobes
Okay.
and granules that are not orange or dark blue.
okay. Alright. Everybody agree? And yes, there's a lot of neutrophils in here because, well, that's what you're basically most of. What's up?
Vein.
Okay, tell me why.
Basically, just because it's kind of like an egg or shoe shape.
Okay. So what, why is it not a lymph? You can tell me, okay? Can anyone help her out? Why is it not a lymph? I heard it.
All the granules.
The granules, right, yeah. Don't make this harder than it is,
I'm not
guys.
trying to make it hard. I
Don't,
don't know.
yeah, don't make it
Like,
hard.
I don't know.
Okay, and it's a say. Why? Well, just the heck was that as? Everybody knows that. All right, it's not a band. You're on the right line.
Okay.
But the problem is, see, we actually have it segmented off here to where there really is no parachromatin in between the two sides here, okay? One of the rules of thumb when we're calling cells is if in doubt, go more mature, okay? And the other thing is, honestly, when I'm looking at bands, I like my sides to stay nice and parallel. I'm limiting my side, I'm actually loosening up a little bit. It used to be if it were this thin, I would call it a seg.
Okay.
But I'm loosening up now to where as long as you can see definitive chromatin between the two sides. So we're just gonna go with a basic segmented neutrophil. If in doubt, go more mature. And unless they are really definitive bands on the exams when I give you the test, I'll give you credit for the most part for both, okay? If it's gonna be a band on the picture review test, it's gonna be a band. It's going to be, it's not gonna be iffy, wussy thing. It's gonna be definitively. Patricia,
That's a vein.
that's a band, alright? Why?
Because it's the same thickness, there's no little pinched off lobes, and it's in a horseshoe shape, and it's pink.
Okay. Where I start when we start coming around, and Melissa will be here to help out, and I've trained her the same way, so this works. When I come around, the first question is always going to be, is it a granulocyte? Yes, sir.
Where do we see the pink at?
The pink, this isn't blue, this is pink. Now, that brings up a good point, and I'm gonna come back to that in just a second, okay? But the first step is always, is it a granulocyte? If I'm debating whether it's pink or blue, how am I gonna figure it out? Because it varies from slide to slide, from, different staining methods. Say that again?
Compare it to the other one on the side.
Compare it to the other segs on the slide. I mean, there is no doubt in anyone's mind, that's a seg, right? So if you're in doubt about whether something is a granulocyte or not, look at the cytoplasm on something that is very definitively a seg. Eosinophils usually only have 2 lobes at most. They don't lobulate off into really multiple lobes. So before you do a differential, you really should scan around the slide a little bit, okay? So that is a band. Deshaun, is this a granulocyte? That's where we're gonna start. I know, put y'all on the spot. Is it a granulocyte? Does it have pink cytoplasm? No. So is it a granulocyte? No. These are all normal cells, guys. Okay. So no, it's not a granulocyte. So what are my options? What could it be? Okay, it's going to be either a monocyte or a lymphocyte. Want to take a stab?
Is monocyte the one with like the round oval, right? Or- I
Wow, okay. All right. What if I tell you it's a monocyte? Can you tell me why I would say that?
The light blue.
The light blue cytoplasm, right?
And the little holes.
The little holes and the vacuoles, right? One of the big things I'm looking at here, again, these are normals, so I don't have ATLs. We'll get to those later. The thing is, the blue cytoplasm, there's lots of it, isn't there? There's a lot of cytoplasm on the cell. Do lymphocytes generally have a lot of cytoplasm? No, not usually. We have vacuoles in it. The nucleus is not symmetrical. Really, rather than round or oval, it's not symmetrical. The edges kind of lobulate, okay? It does not, it's not a nice, simple circle or oval. It kind of lobulates around. What about the chromatin pattern in the nucleus itself? Would you classify that as fine or would you classify that as dense? More fine, okay? Which is going to lead me more to a monocyte. And believe me, monocytes versus ATLs is the worst thing I ever have to teach. Okay, Nicole. And Deshaun's going, oh, I got number one.
It looks orangish, so I'm gonna say eosinophil.
Okay, now just a second.
Oh.
Okay.
Not orange, just a neutrophil.
It's just a neutrophil. And the other thing that tells me it's probably not an eosinophil, how many lobes do I have?
4 instead of 2.
Yeah, so it's, yeah. I'll say that again.
I've always thought it was
It's 3 or 4, but yeah, usually if it's an eosinophil, it's only gonna have 2. I think I've only seen one eosinophil ever, and that was in a patient who had some sort of bizarre something going on that had more than 2 lobes in their eos. They just don't lobulate out as much. Okay, our neutrophils have multiple lobes. Now, just because there's 2 doesn't mean it is a neutrophil, but if there's more than 2, it's probably not an eosinophil.
It's not a segmented neutrophil,
Why?
because even though it kind of looks like a band, it still looks like it has segmented parts, and the cytoplasm is pink.
Definitely looks like it has segmented parts. And again, a band, one of the things I look for more in a band is symmetry. And this is not very symmetrical, okay? And it definitely pinches off right here. Keep in mind, these are 2-dimensional pictures of a 3-dimensional thing. So when you're on the scope, you're actually going to be able to focus up and down. And you're going to be able to see that just a little bit better.
Lymphocyte,
Why?
because of the dark purple nucleus, and then you can barely see any cytoplasm, and it looks dense.
Okay, let's hear that. Let's hear that with more conviction.
Is that thick? Is that dense? Okay.
It's dense. That's dense chromatin. That's why. Yeah. You know that. Be wrong, but make a decision. Why not? Okay. Okay. But no, yeah, that is very dense chromatin. The other thing on this one is simply size. Okay. It's about the same size as a red cell. The only one that is routinely the same size as a red cell is a lymphocyte. I'm trying to give you any kind of stupid hints I can. And of course, what can lymphocytes look like? Anything they want to. They're out there just to confuse you. I think it's a plot. I think they're alien invaders. What do you think?
Another side?
Pardon?
Another side?
Another say. Why?
That's the multiple
Multiple lobes. Okay. We want to start with, is it a granulocyte? Okay? And just kind of get used to that one word in proof. Is it a granulocyte? Because we're going to use that a lot when we start getting into the immatures. So is it a granulocyte? Yes. Okay. It's a swan under a storm cloud. Yes. Multiple lobes, so it is a segmented neutrophil. a seg. Why?
Because it has pink cytoplasm.
Okay.
And it looks kind of low, but it's not equal on those sides. I don't think it's a band. Even though it doesn't have like a definitive pinched offness.
Right, and it does have some pinched offness right there, so, and again, it's kind of hard, sometimes the pictures aren't as nice as I'd like them to be. And it's not just that the cytoplasm's pink, but it does have the granules in it. Okay. Your turn.
I'd go with the seg because it's pinched right there in the middle and it can't be a, what's it called? EO.
Okay.
Well, it won't be a band because it is pinched right there in the middle.
Right, and why is it not in yellow?
Cytoplasm is light pink, it looks like, so.
It matches what the cytoplasm on the other cells look like. Okay. And that really is, I have a couple slides in there that are from other facilities where the cytoplasm on the segs is almost more of a blue granule, but the granules are much more prominent. So the trick about finding a seg may actually come into play on some of the stuff I've got in there.
I mean, the granules are also pink, just a darker pink,
Right,
correct?
right, correct. So seg,
Other side.
another seg, why? And?
Well, I can't see color, so
And it's
I'll
a-
assume it's granulized.
Another seg. Oh man, I got a blue one too. It's not fair.
Honestly.
Why?
Because it has the granules in there, or it doesn't have granules and it has the vacuums.
Has the vacuoles. Now ATLs can have vacuoles, but it's also NC ratio. I've got a lot of cytoplasm. A lot of cytoplasm on this one. Okay? Whereas in most of my lymphocytes, I'm not gonna see, even my ATLs, not gonna see quite as much cytoplasm as in most of my monos. The chromatin pattern is fairly fine.
Isn't monocytes also have that dark edge going around?
The ones that have a dark edge going around the red cells are the ATLs. And this isn't really dark. I mean, you'll see it'll be really, really basophilic, extreme.
The upper one kind of is pretty dark.
There?
Yeah.
Oh, that's because, that's purple because that's where the nucleus is coming up against it. Okay, anyone want to take a stab?
Is it
Seg.
segmented?
Okay.
Neutrophil?
Why?
Because with the band, it's not symmetrical and it's still got a lobe coming off.
Right. And if in doubt, what do we call it?
Sure.
A seg, the more mature. We're gonna call it a seg now. This is my drunken happy face. Yeah, I know, I have to watch it with y'all because I had one student last semester spent too much time looking for funny shapes in the cells and stopped identifying them. I don't care if you found a cow, you need to. But what is my drunken happy face? Sag. Ooh, who wants to hit on this one? Okay.
We call it a monocyte. It's got a
Monocyte.
little extra.
All right, we're
cytoplasm
gonna
in there.
vote it. Go ahead and finish your explanations.
It's got a little extra cytoplasm in there, but it's still more nucleal than cytoplasm, and it's more round and lobed.
Oh, it's sad now. Let's go vote. Why is it an ATL? There is more cytoplasm. You're very correct in that. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Okay, it's getting a little too friendly with the red cells. This is darkening a little bit, but the nucleus is very symmetrical, and it's denser than what most of our monocytes were. Okay, more homogeneous.
And it doesn't have vacuoles, right? That white stuff up there, it's not vacuole.
That's not vacuoles, yeah. That's where it's kind of reaching out for the antigens on the cells. Yes.
So, lymphocytes will kind of touch up against the other
some atypical lymphocytes, some atypicals will sort of conform to the red cells.
Yeah.
As I said, lymphocytes are out there as a bane of our existence. Okay, we'll vote. Who votes SEG? Make a decision. You can do this. Be definitive. You can do this, okay? All right, so we have SEG. Who votes band? Who's right? Both. Really, I'm going to go with the SEG on this one for me because it's fairly squeezed out, but I've relaxed my criteria a lot, so if you were to call this a band, I certainly would not count you wrong. Okay. The most important part about calling bands is not whether you're definitively correct or not correct. The most important part about it is, are you consistent with everybody else in your laboratory? I don't want a doctor looking at my baby slide and saying, oh my gosh, yesterday they only had 12 bands and today they've got 35. And the doctor going, what happened? What's wrong with my baby? My baby's sick. When all it is that the person who called it yesterday is very conservative and the person who called it today is not. Yes?
Would it not be an EO because
Yeah, it's not an EO because it's pink. And it has, the granules in it are very, very small. Okay, they're very, very small. But you understand what I'm saying about consistency, okay? You just need to make sure that everyone in the lab is using basically the same criteria. You don't want a miscalled slide simply because of a difference. Okay. Anybody want to hazard a guess?
Yeah.
Eosinophil. What I want you to look at the granules on this slide. Okay, you see, this is probably one of the biggest granules we have here. Look at the color. Look at the color, and look at the granules on this side. These almost look like, to me, they look like sesame seeds. You know, like a little sesame seed bun. You can actually pick out and define the granules. A lot of times you can even see clearing around the granules. Whereas in this one, they're more sandy. They're not quite as defined. They're not as big. And again, this one only has 2 lobes. Does that rule out that it's a SEG? No, but it makes it more likely it's an EO. Quick call.
Seg.
Quick call.
Band. Seg.
Hummingbird.
Eo.
Basophil?
Seg.
Why? Why do you think it's a basophil?
Well, never mind. It's not basophil, it's something
Okay, tell me why it's not a basophil. You're right.
because it is about the whole size of the entire cell. Why, for being dark blue, I guess.
Right, yeah, they're really, really dark blue. And the other thing is, okay, this is not a good way to tell, but Diane only has about 8 pictures of basophils. So by the end of the semester, you'll know when it's a basophil because it's one of the 8.
Is that a smaller monocyte?
No, this is actually a band. Okay, it's almost a meta. In fact, I'm not so sure I wouldn't call it a meta. But the thing, what you're looking at here, I need to focus up and down because I think what we're seeing here, this band, I think is like this. Okay, if you saw it this way, this indent would go more than halfway. But I think you're looking at it like this. And it's just because I can see it, especially on the screen, I can see a little more defined. I can see an edge here, and I can see an edge here.
Like the band is a C and we're just looking into the window?
Right, you're looking at that end of it instead of that side of it. Okay, and how am I going to tell that? Looking up and down, focusing up and down, you're going to see that. Okay, and that's actually why this one's in here is because we see that quite a bit.
Seg.
Seg, boring.
Band.
monocyte?
Mono.
No, because of the
ATM.
I think it's a lymphomonophilocyte. I'm really in search of one of those. I got this off of another site. This was not one I took myself. They called it a monocyte. I think I'd call it an ATL. Would I put something this cookie on a test? Yeah, but I'd take either answer. Okay. I really think it's an ATL, the main reason being, okay, the nucleus looks more monocytic, and we are supposed to call based on the if in doubt, you call based on the nucleus, not based on the cytoplasm. But this is really dark blue, really super dark blue, where it's around the red cells. And this really curves to the red cell, whereas a monocyte kind of blobs over it. Okay? So, truthfully, they called it a monocyte. I call it a schistocyte. That's my term, by the way. That's not a real kind of cell. You're allowed one per slide. In other words, if you're going through and say, what the hell's that? And that's my schistocyte. I ain't counting that. But if you find another one, you gotta go back and figure out what they both were. Okay? You can get some weird things, just somebody has a icky cell. If it's gonna be significant, you're gonna see more than one of them. Sag. Sag.
Band.
This is kind of bluish in the cytoplasm, but it's still very granular. It's still kind of grainy. Sag.
So.
One of the very few basophils that I have, and that's a drawing. It's not even a picture.
So.
Those are ATLs. Those are Ugas.
Eos. Lymphocyte.
Okay, somebody tell me why they think. Okay, who wants to be picked on? Whose turn is it to get picked on? Sean said she's going to get picked on. Sean, you said it's a lymphocyte. Why?
Because the nucleus looks round, not so round, but it's round.
Mm-hmm. It's dense.
Yeah.
But I got. Don't give up on me here. I got granules in there, don't I?
Oh, yeah.
Well, those are granules. So is it a granulocyte? You can have some of these little granules. This is what I was saying yesterday. You'll see these granules, but there'll be just a few of them, and they're usually just kind of clustered together in one spot. The cytoplasm itself is very blue. There's very little of it, very scant cytoplasm, dense chromatin, very round. NC ratio is very high, and it's about the same size as a red cell. Okay? It is a lymphocyte, you're right. That's why I said argue with me, y'all. Don't give up.
Where did the granules come from? They're like other cells? They just like.
No, they are actually within lymphocytes, can have a couple of, this is a lot. Usually you see 5 or 10 of them just kind of clustered in one spot. There's more in this one. Again, why did I put it on the slide? Is to make this point. But they are just a granule that can be formed in the cytoplasm of certain types of lymphocytes.
So.
ATL.
So.
I gotta take this one out. My imagination's not that bad, but somebody told me, and I can't, you just can't unsee things. What's this?
Lymphocyte. ATL. Basal.
This is a real basophil. I actually have a picture. The new slide standard, we have stains basophils. So whenever we're doing diffs and we see a baso, push the green button. We're gonna get some baso pictures this year. Notice how dark the granules are. You can't really even see the nucleus, can you? And in basophils, that's very common. They're gonna have these really big, dark blue granules. You're not gonna see them on every slide. Yes,
Is that other thing just like a platelet or?
that's
on
just a
the-
platelet.
Okay.
That's just a platelet. We'll hit those.
Basal.
Basophil.
Eos.
I think it's lymphocyte. Again, I don't know what this other, yeah, I don't like that one. They say it's a monocyte because the cytoplasm is fairly, or I'm sorry, the chromatin's fairly fine. There's quite a bit of cytoplasm. I say size and shape, I would call it a lymph.
Yeah.
Monocyte. You got that?
Might be over there.
You got that? Over there?
Look at the cytoplasm, it's not granular, it's blue. This is a monocyte. You know the only way to learn to do these? You can put them under the scope and you're gonna do them until you're ready to puke. Okay, monocyte. You can really see the fine chromatin pattern in here. You can see that it's nice and lobulated. Lymph. Lymphocyte. Lymphocyte.
ATL.
Either.
Now, I think I'm gonna go mono. I know it's getting a little blue here, but it's more blobbing over them. And okay, if I'm doing a diff and I see one of those, I'm gonna call that one a monocyte. And I see another one, heck, I'll call it a lymphocyte. What are diffs about? Are they about numbers? Ratios. If I see a lot of these, then I've got to kind of figure out what I've got going on. The nice thing about the higher level Sysmex is they use a myeloperoxidase stain so they can tell monos from lymphocytes a lot better. They still have problems, but it's better.
Mono.
Is that an ATL?
That's an ATL. It's another one they call a monocyte. I call it an ATL. It's so dark blue around the edges. I need to redo this slide file so that I've got the site. At least I need to at least mark them monocyte/ATL. Lymph, what's this?
EO.
Everybody likes EOs. I have one in there that's got 70% EOs. Really count. Definitely bands. Trying to remember if I had anything else in here exciting that we really need to go over. Alright, those are the normal cells. ATLs and monos, don't worry, we're gonna get into those a lot more, okay? I've got many pictures for those that I'm gonna review through. Yes? They're on Blackboard, under cell review. I've got the normal, the not so normal, the nasty. I'm working on 2 new ones. I don't know if I'll have them done or not. I have great plans and, X amount of time. So I do as much as I can. Did that help any? Okay.
Yes.
What I want to do next week, I keep thinking it's Thursday, it's Wednesday. Remind me when I leave, I gotta work. But what I want to do next week is, we'll have the test on Tuesday, we'll do cell review on Wednesday, and we will, we'll have the cell test, like 20 minutes, I'm gonna give you 20 minutes to answer 10 questions. Believe me, that's a lot of time. To answer 10 slides and go on from there. I will then add it to your test grade.
Are we having a picture test tomorrow?
No, we did this week's already.